Performer, director, and social activist, Angelica Aragon has worked extensively in radio, television, theater, and film for 40 years. Her leading roles in 25 soap operas have awarded her a special place in the hearts of audiences around the world, pushing the boundaries of commercial TV into the realms of political correctness and gender equality. Aragon has taken part in more than 100 films with leading international actors and directors, working with younger generations as teammate and mentor. Her stage career includes more than 40 productions in Mexico and the US. Angelica travels constantly, delivering messages of inclusion, integration, and respect for ethnic minorities and marginalized communities. And now, Latinos Progresando is proud to welcome to the stage our 2019 Mex Talks headliner, Angelica Aragon.
Gracias. Wow. Thank you very, very much. What a pleasure and what a privilege to be here amongst you tonight. Thank you. I'm going to be speaking tonight basically or mostly about women. So please bear with me because I feel that the liberation of women is equivalent in many ways to the integration of Latinos into this society, because it's finally a matter of equality, equal rights, equal opportunities. Latinos progresando, that's a great motto. It's a great idea, it's a great project. Back in the 80s, I asked a dear friend, an actor, Manuel Lopez Ochoa. I had heard him on radio for decades in my childhood, how he had managed to work in Hollywood. He was one of the first actors to cross over to this country. And he said, before you try hiring a lawyer, marrying somebody or whatever to get your green card, you need to decide something. And that is whether you want to be the head of the mouse in your country, Mexico, or whether you want to be the lion's tail in this country. Because he said, as a Mexican actor in Hollywood, you will never be able to reach the top. And it made me sad. I was frustrated to think that as Latinos, we were destined to play only the minor roles. But things changed. And maybe some 10 years later, I found myself in Los Angeles working in a film called A Walk in the Clouds. I was very lucky to play a leading role there. It was directed by Alfonso Arau. Maybe some of you might have seen it. I think it's a great film because it really breaks the stereotype of the Mexican family. We're talking about showing Mexicans as productive, well-integrated, intelligent people. And this was back in the 1940s. So it was a great experience, not just to be able to work alongside Anthony Quinn, Keanu Reeves, etc., but to be part of a film that has remained in people's hearts for such a long time. It's been more than 25 years since we shot it in Los Angeles. And to this day, it is a film that is very much in our hearts because it was so positive in the way of portraying our mexicanidad, ¿no es cierto? But we still have a problem. And I think that the source of it may lie in the fact that as migrants, as Latinos, we don't really fully integrate ourselves into this society because we never become fully bicultural. It's not the same for the people who were born here, but without the sufficient educational skills and language skills, as Latinos and as women, we will always be marginalized. We will always be the helpers and never the doers. Back in 1999, I worked again with Alfonso Arau in Hollywood. We did a film with Woody Allen and Sharon Stone, Kiefer Sutherland, called Picking Up the Pieces. Very strange film, but I was very, very fortunate. This is raro, bizarre. But I mean, it was a great opportunity to work alongside these actors. David Schwimmer from the series Friends, who was at that time very, very popular and earning $1 million a week, not in our film, but on television. But I was very fortunate to be asked by Alfonso Arau, again, the director of Picking Up the Pieces, to work as a second unit director. And I said, you know, how am I going to be a second unit director if I'm not even a director? And, you know, in the United States, and he said, and I said, what is the staff going to say? And he said, nothing, you know, they're going to have to take it. So I went to my unit, which was integrated by women, first camera assistant, a woman, first camera operator, all first assistant director, a woman. And they had, you remember the film chairs are these canvas chairs on a wooden frame. And they had, because I came late into the project as a director, they had, the chair didn't have my name. So they had put with masking tape my name, second unit director, but then the sign for feminism, for women, for womanhood, all over the chair. And I said, well, great, thank you. You know, it's a great way to welcome me. One of the girls said, I am third, they were all Americans, obviously. I'm third generation in my family born in the Disney studios. My grandfather worked for Walt Disney. My dad has always worked for Disney. And now I am also working for Disney. She was like maybe a 30-year-old woman. And she said, I'm very, very proud that you are doing this job here today. Because as American women in this country, in the film industry, I will never, she said to me, be able to sit in that chair. I couldn't believe it. So I felt very, very strongly supported by this group of women who did not care how I had arrived to this position. What mattered is that I was there. And they felt very, very proud that at least one woman was doing that job, thinking that their opportunity might never come. The younger generations who have, you know, followed the American school system and who are totally bilingual, they have a very different path, a much brighter one. I myself have always considered myself to be bicultural. I attended multilingual schools from a very young age. Although I was born in Mexico, where I still live and work professionally, I've always been exposed not just to English, but to many, many languages. I went to a French medium school. I studied Greek, Latin, Sanskrit. I want to study Japanese, Tibetan. I think that in as much as we at least have access through languages to other people's cultures, then we have a way in to, you know, understand them better, come closer to them, and finally become more integrated with them. I come from a peasant family. My grandfather. My father was born in 1919. He would have been 100 years old last August the 2nd. And a very, very poor background. He became an actor. I admire him very much for that, a self-made man. Through him, I met true Hollywood legends like John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, at a time when many, many co-productions were filmed in Mexico. But I never met his mother because she died, my paternal grandmother, age 19, after giving birth to her fifth son in 1922. When I learned about the circumstances of her death, and I must have been in my adolescence then, I was shocked at the injustice of her short-lived destiny because in a male-dominated society, a woman in the middle of nowhere where she lived with no access to education or health care had a life expectancy of 20 years in the 20th century. This because she was a woman and because she was poor. So I decided to take her last name, Aragon, and use it as my stage name in order to honor her memory, Fredesvinda Aragon. My maternal grandmother, however, was a very, very strong influence on my life. She was also bicultural. She went to school in Los Angeles at Marymount School, and then, age 55, said to me, I want to go to university. I never went to, college. And I said, Abuelita, not at this age, what are you going to be doing sitting? I was only 7. What are you going to be doing sitting with young kids at your age? Forget it. But today, when I put up her school diploma in my office with her oval-shaped photograph and licenciada en ciencias políticas, my heart is so happy for her. She took part in major intellectual, artistic, and ideological movements in Mexico. She always insisted that a solid education was the key to success. She ended up becoming a very prominent political activist, and she would say, because I finally went to school. I always loved school. I remember being 7 or 8 at that time when my grandmother was in university and winning a major poetry competition in which I represented my school. And the headmistress, however, traded my first prize for a second one because she thought, it was going to be too much trouble to drive me to all the rest of the competitions. And she didn't think anything of it, but an injustice was being committed. And I felt terribly disappointed and realized that what I needed was my voice to speak out for myself. And to this day, I very much admire my voice coaches in drama school in the UK, Pamela Barnard and Kristen Linklater, because they empowered my voice. In the 5th and 6th grades, I had a teacher, Mrs. Lynn. She was from Portland, Oregon. Very, very generous, but very strict and a wonderful teacher. She taught us how to grasp the essence of an idea, how to connect the dots, how to organize one's thoughts to be able to communicate them. She encouraged me to express myself, and most importantly, she gave me the tools to do it. So thank you, Mrs. Lynn. All this to say, I'm very grateful to my teachers. I have had wonderful teachers, and I thank my good fortune for it, because from a very young age, they set me on a path of righteousness. I did my theatrical training in England at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts. I also worked front of house for the National Theatre for 7 years. And finally, in 1980, I became a full-time actress for the Mexican television network Televisa. I took part in a series of telenovelas over the next 15 years with Televisa, all of which were shown in this country and the world over, actually. Chispita, Vivir un Poco, Días sin Luna, Más allá del puente, De frente al sol, Cañaveral de Pasiones. These are some of the titles. In those days, we all worked with a prompter. No one had read the script. Even during rehearsals, we used a prompter. So everyone, including the directors, the actors obviously, followed the script as it was being read to us. So I quickly realized that if I changed the script of the prompter, no one would notice that we had a different script from the original one. And that way, it was a very effective way to eliminate all the stereotypes that constantly came up in the dialogue, and of choosing much better and sensitive ways of, expressing our issues, gender issues, basically. No one noticed. But this to say, I have always stood up for my characters. I have defended their integrity, the integrity of women in general, of womankind, of womanhood. And in fact, a very powerful banner in this quest turned out to be Maria Inés, a character that I played in Mirada de Mujer, a soap opera that was produced by another network, Televisión Azteca. My co-star and I, Ari Telch, got a front cover story and picture in Time magazine when the soap opera was produced. The title of the article being Breaking Taboos. That was the headline, challenging the structure of traditional marriage in a middle-class Mexican family. This time, however, the middle-aged wife will take control over her own life and even rekindle the flame of love in her heart. Even after her husband of 27 years, had fled with a young bird, abandoning home and 3 children. It was an intelligent script written for an intelligent audience. This was very, very different from what we were used to. I'm talking about maybe 1996. It was politically correct. The cast was strong. We had a very good director. The visual language was very seductive. So Mirada de Mujer turned out to be a great success, a major success for the network. The financially stronger sectors of the audience, the better educated ones, suddenly started to pay attention. And so did the church, the Catholic Church, the Evangelical Church. They hated it. They felt we were stirring some issues that they did not want to deal with. In 1 year, Mirada de Mujer had helped women to recognize their right to a voice, their own voice, and to recognize and establish what that voice might want to say. But Mirada de Mujer also gave me a voice as a leader of opinion, as a feminist icon. And I began making many personal appearances in all sorts of stages and platforms, speaking out in defense of human rights, the rights of women, the rights of children, the rights of Latinos, the rights of planet Earth, the rights of all inhabitants on this earth to survive. But this was not the agenda of commercial television in Mexico. So today I work almost exclusively in film and theater, very little television. But I always try to draw attention to these issues, even when dealing with fiction. I insist that the script be not offensive to women in any way, and I have managed to change several things over the course of this year. For example, I was playing a midwife, 4 girls who were stranded in a storm, had to sleep over in my house. My son arrives in the middle of the storm, he's drenched, he takes off his shirt, I try to dry him off with a towel. The girls are like drooling over the shirtless man. I thought it was ridiculous, but the worst thing was that 5 minutes later, they haven't been introduced, they don't know each other's names. The girl was doing oral sex to my son. And I said, if this scene is not taken out of the script, I don't want to be part of it. And it was. So we can push boundaries a little and, achieve minor but significant changes. By the way, the series is coming out, I guess soon. It's called, I hate the title, Desenfrenadas. Because this is what the male attitude is now. Take away the brake. We have things in the back of our brains that control our impulses. The idea, and look at Ruffles potato chips, all of their commercials are do not hesitate to commit whatever excess you might want, because this potato chip is allowing you. And the moment the girl puts the potato chip into her mouth, the potato chip who represents the ruffles, who is just a slice of a potato with Ray-Ban glasses and jeans, suddenly has an orgasm. Ya no aguantamos esto las mujeres, ya. O sea, hasta una papa. Seriously, watch those adverts. But not just Ruffles, which, never buy those chips. Why? What for? Alfa Romeo, the cars, Italian cars. Look at their adverts and you'll see what makes people's hair stand on end. Alfa Romeo car, but the image is of the woman's thigh sitting in the co-pilot seat. So no, ya no eso, por favor. We are tired of being portrayed as sex objects. It's enough. It's been 30,000 years. Since the 50s and 60s, the liberation of women became a just and a necessary cause. A world calling, defining and denouncing misogyny everywhere and anywhere. Women became better educated, more independent, much more aware of sexism anywhere. We stepped out of our homes and conquered public spaces. Last year, in fact, the United Nations at their General Assembly in New York City stated that the world will know more peaceful times when women have a more prominent role in politics and in public life. Mexico today is ranked number 4 in number of women senators. This is great. Now let's see what kind of work they're going to do there, but at least they made it to the Senate. However, the head of the International Monetary Fund, Christine Lagarde, says that, or warns that, equal pay will not be reached in the 21st century. We have 81 more years before the year 3000, and we will still be underpaid for the next 81 years. ¿Cómo les parece? So it distresses me very much to talk about these issues, but particularly to see how the younger generations of women, the under 30s, have misunderstood what feminism set out to achieve. And they have bought an image of themselves that television is selling. In fact, media is selling. And that is the image of a woman with masculine attitudes and behavior. No somos iguales. You see girls now on screen downing shots. They're sexually aggressive. They're eager to please him at any time. They become a dominatrix who knows instinctively when to become submissive. She knows exactly how far her man is prepared to go in playing the gender equality charade before she is required to go back to her stereotypical role of sex object. Granted, lo reconozco, young women today are certainly motivated very strongly in political terms. They are active worldwide. We just had a huge march in Mexico City, very young women demanding equal rights. They nearly destroyed our Angel of Independence. But at least they're out there. At least they're, working together and recognizing that we have a common ground to work from. To the outside world, these younger women may seem politically correct, but I wonder, inside, how do they feel? What about their personal lives? Because male entitlement is still very prevalent in our culture. It seems as though the more we as women go forward in our claim for equality, the higher the price we have to pay. And I wonder, why is it that the younger generation is so ready to pay that price? Is debasing oneself the only option women have today to reach out to men? Is debasing oneself the only option we have to be seen by men, to be taken into account by men? I don't think so. But here we are. I read many, many scripts. Over the years, it's been hundreds. And the numbers are staggering. Listen to this. 86% of stories about women are written by men. 86%. So I'm so glad that we had Nancy here a few minutes ago, who is a playwright. We need more women to write our own stories because we are being defined by the other sex. And consider this, even 20 years ago, telenovelas provided Mexico with the second largest revenue in foreign currency after oil. The second largest industry, completely Mexican. The stories, the actors, the costumes, the scenery, the music, everything was Mexican, a great industry. Lost. We had 90 million people as a captive audience in Mexico, and the rest of the world, we sold our telenovelas to 190 countries worldwide. It was a huge stimulus for our economy, for tourism, for trade, cultural exchange, you name it. I remember that in 2001, after 9/11, we had that anniversary yesterday, Time magazine published 2 sentences, 2 lines saying, Kabul, capital of Afghanistan, being liberated from the Taliban regime, tries to have a normal life, and in as much as they have electricity, they sit around, families sit around the television set and watch a Mexican soap opera, Mirada de Mujer, in Afghanistan, in the middle of the war. This was the penetration that our soap operas had worldwide. Initially in the 50s and 60s, which was the beginning of television, all soap operas were written by women. Melodrama, by definition, is a sentimental issue that happens around a female central character. Today, all soaps are written by men, betraying the original formula. I don't know whether this is the main cause of why telenovelas are now flopping as an industry, but certainly the industry is stagnating. Audiences now are watching Turkish soap operas, 10 years old, you know, from like the 20th century, instead of, or rather than, that inadmissible garbage that is being thrown back at us through the screen. Namely, all those narco-series and all that, you know, what is a glorification of the drug lords and their lifestyle, of the submission of their women. No one wants to buy those soap operas anymore, not even Mexicans. So a great industry was lost, in part to male entitlement, my opinion. Latinos and Latinas are portrayed in the media in this country and anywhere else in the world in the same way that migrants are portrayed everywhere, as stereotypes built on ignorance. We have the voluptuous bimbo, the gigolo. Ahí está Eugenio Derbez. No, with his, ¿cómo se llama eso? Exacto, thank you. We're still the humble maids, the quiet gardeners to this day, but hey, people, Mexicans are all rapists, all child molesters and criminals. It's official here, isn't it? Anyway, thankfully our culture is changing. Gradually, as Latinos, we are becoming much more proactive, much more outgoing, more integrated. And I invite you all, men and women, Latinos and others, to take a good look at yourselves, at ourselves, at our achievements, at our goals, at our frustrations and deceptions too. Let us be honest in establishing how much more work we need to do in order to build a healthier, more harmonious, y sobre todo, more respectful society. May this be our legacy for the children to come. Gracias, gracias a cada uno de ustedes, no solamente por estar aquí, sino por el esfuerzo diario que hacen para lograr estos ideales. Un mundo más justo, más equitativo, unos Estados Unidos más integrados. Gracias. Se les quiere mucho y nos vemos allá afuera.